Mr. Rohn has addressed over 4 million people in over 6,000 audiences over the last 39 years. His unique delivery and style put him head and shoulders above the rest. Anthony Robbins credits Jim as being his first mentor. I remember hearing Jim speak one time about a gentleman that was sitting in the front row. Mr. Tony Robbins was in the front row of Jim's seminar. Who would have ever imagined, who would have ever thought? Now, the only thing that I have to say is who is sitting in the front row of this audience? All of you. This is a very close-knit group of people. Jim's philosophy is income seldom exceeds personal development. And now I get to go backstage and take out my journal and take out my set of notes from 21 years ago because of a gentleman that I've been listening to daily. Every single day I think and I listen to, and I just don't even know what to say. There is all the motivation and all the systems and all the training that we could ever want, but there is a philosophy behind what we are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Rohn.
How many of you have never seen me before? First time. Oh, wow, everybody. I keep thinking I'm famous, but not that famous, I guess, right? It's a pleasure to be here. How many are ready to take notes? Fantastic. Okay. Here's the first sentence for the sort of foundation for our work today. We're going to sort of cut it in half, about an hour and a half now, and this afternoon we'll come back for another hour and a half. Just jot this phrase down. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. Move this up here. Okay. I illustrate it like this. Kids want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid. And it's simple how we get paid. We bring value, just jot that word down, to the marketplace. The marketplace is the country where you live, the community where you live, the people around you that you can serve. So we get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. I'm off to Russia this year again, my 5th tour of Russia, teaching the Russians capitalism. Because, you know, the way everybody got paid until about 11, 12 years ago when the walls came down, they got paid, you know, for working for the government. But now, free enterprise and all of that is starting to roll, starting to flow for Russia. It's exciting to see. My first class in Russia, 9 years ago, I had 8,000 people in an audience not far from the Kremlin in Moscow, teaching capitalism. Right? Farm kid from Idaho. Who could imagine that someday I'd be teaching capitalism in the capital city of Russia? And now I'm going back for my 5th tour. But this is what I started teaching all those years ago, starting about 9 years ago. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. And the value is in primarily 2 parts. And the 2 parts are, we get paid for what we bring, which could be a product or a service or an opportunity. But the biggest pay, we get paid for what we become. Now, if you work for a company, they may develop the product that you don't have to develop yourself. They keep making it better. They keep making the service better that you can offer to the people. The opportunity perhaps is improved. Someone else may, with technology and other things, make this more valuable for you to bring. Then the whole key then becomes, in bringing yourself to the marketplace to see what you can become. That is what I learned when I was 25 years old that started to totally change my life. Helped me make my fortune by the time I was 32. 7 years from the time I heard this simple little formula that you don't have to be working on the marketplace in order to do better. The marketplace is there. Of course, if you live in a country where the government restricts how you do business, I'm off to China this year. Some places in China you can do business like free enterprise. Most of the country you cannot. But most of the time, especially if you live in a free country, the marketplace is totally available. Whatever you want to do, you can do as long as you're within the limits of law and guidelines. So the whole key then is we don't have to work on the marketplace. We only have to work on the person we become. In America, the income ladder is very simple. It starts at $5 an hour, called the minimum wage. And then this income ladder in America just goes like this. Top income last year, $63 million. One person earned for 1 year's work. $63 million. With stock options, and someone who owns a company may make a lot more than that, but what someone actually got paid. Okay, $63 million. So if you live in a country like America where you can start, if you have to, at the bottom, called minimum wage, $5 an hour, the ladder goes up to $63 million. We call that one heck of a ladder. That's why everybody wants to come here, right? People haven't plotted and schemed for the last 40 years. If I could just get to Poland, everything would be okay. No. Everybody wants to come to America. Neil Diamond sings, looks like everybody's coming to America any way they possibly can. They're not building rafts to get to Cuba, right? They're building rafts to try to get to America. They're not squeezing through the fence to get to Mexico. They're squeezing through the fence to try to get to America. And the reason is because economically, the opportunity is so unbelievable, no matter where you have to start. Now, the whole key is, how do you change your economic future? And I want you to jot this phrase down now because it'll be a major part of what we talk about today. You start primarily with your personal philosophy. Your personal philosophy. So if you had to start at $5 an hour, how could you then get to $6 an hour? Speaking economically, how do you go from $5 an hour to $6 and begin your journey up this economic ladder? So just underline, it begins with your philosophy. Okay. We're using America now as a model on income. So what philosophies would you use to change your income from $5 to $6? Okay, let me give you some to think about. Here's number one. Wait for the government to change the minimum wage. That's a legitimate philosophy, okay? The government demands from the minimum wage law that the company has to pay you $5 an hour. If you waited long enough and the government changed the minimum wage to $6 an hour, then the company would automatically have to pay you $6. So that's philosophy number one. Wait for the government to change the minimum wage. You say, well, that might take too long. Is there another philosophy? And the answer is yes. Okay. Here's the second philosophy. Wait for the company to pay you $6 an hour. Right? You get a review how often? Every 6 months, let's say. You missed it. You waited a year. Maybe you didn't make it then. You say, wow, no telling how long that would take if I have to wait for the company to pay me $6 an hour. So we've covered now two philosophies. One, wait for the government. Number two, wait for the company. Here's philosophy number three. Go on strike and demand that you get $6 an hour or you won't work. Now, if you're by yourself, this is a risky philosophy. If you've got 1,000 people with you, maybe you could force the company to change it from 5 to 6. If there were enough of you that said, we will not work, We demand $6 or we will not work. By yourself, not a good philosophy. Together with others, it could work. Right? Here's what we call this, the philosophy of demand. I demand more money. Alone, too risky. Together, maybe you could get some progress. So now we've covered 3 philosophies. Number 1, wait for the government. Number 2, wait for the company. Number 3, the philosophy of demand, which is a bit risky. Here's the problem with the philosophy of demand. You can't get rich. If people only understood, starting at the lower end of the economic scale, that you cannot get rich by demand. Okay. Now someone says, well, in America, how could you become wealthy? And the answer is to develop a new philosophy. And let me give you that. It might be the best I've got for the whole day. It's called the philosophy of performance. The philosophy of performance. I will perform so well, it would be embarrassing for the company not to pay me $6. Then I would perform so well, it would be embarrassing for the company not to pay me $8 an hour, $10 an hour, $20 an hour. So now we've got several philosophies going, and if you want to change your economic future, it starts with your personal philosophy. Okay. Now, here's what's interesting in America. I'm sure all of us can think of someone who makes $5 an hour getting started. Can anybody in the audience think of someone who makes $50 an hour? Do you happen to know anyone that makes $50 an hour? Anybody know somebody that makes about that much money? So jot this down now, because you've got to teach it to the children, because they're not teaching this in the ordinary schools. It's possible in America to multiply your income by 10. If you take nothing else home economically to pass on to your children or to someone else, just take that phrase home. Jim Rohn taught us it's possible in America to multiply your income by 10. It's possible. If kids knew it was possible, do you think they would ask, how can you do that? If they knew it was possible, wouldn't the next question would be, how could I do it? If it's possible, how can I do it? Now you just teach them how to do it. How to multiply your income by 10. Now jot this down. A good economic question. Once you've multiplied your income by 10, is it possible to multiply it by 10 again? Not only to multiply it by 10, but to multiply your income by 10 again. Do you know anybody that makes $500 an hour? Can you think of someone? Makes $500 an hour? Right, my Beverly Hills lawyer makes more than $500 an hour. So jot this down. It's not only possible in America to multiply your income by 10, it's possible to multiply it by 10 again. Do you think kids would be excited to hear this philosophy? I'm sure they would. How can you multiply your income by 10 and then multiply it by 10 again? Now, if you multiplied it by 10 and then multiplied it again by 10, would it be possible? Would it be possible to multiply it by 10 again? Can you think of anybody that makes $5,000 an hour? What do you think I get paid? I mean, this is such exciting stuff. I'm a kid from the farms of Idaho. I was 25 years old before I learned that you could multiply your income by 10 and then multiply it by 10 again and then multiply it by 10 again. This is mind-boggling stuff. $5,000 an hour. Now, would it be possible? Would it be possible to multiply it by 10 again? $50,000 an hour. Now, here's a good expression to use, especially for this group. You're all tuned in, especially the last couple of days. The best expression is, of course. Could you multiply your income by 10? Of course. Could you do it again? Of course. Could you do it again? Could you do it one more time? $50,000 an hour. You know, I've lectured with General Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell. I had lunch once with Colin Powell a few years ago. Schwarzkopf gets about $65,000 for a 1-hour speech. $65,000. So how could you finally get to $50,000 an hour? Answer, become a general in the Army. Yes. And lead the troops in the Gulf War. But what I'm trying to say is the possibilities here, let's just say, are just unlimited. You can multiply your income by 10, then you can multiply it by 10 again, and you can multiply it by 10 again. Now, we're only talking economic values. There's all kinds of other values in terms of personal development, but this is it. Now, to climb this ladder, here's the possibilities. 63 million last year, one person earned. The possibilities, we would have to say, in our country, is what we call unlimited. Now, to climb this ladder as high as you wish to climb it, jot this phrase down now because I don't think I'll talk about anything more valuable than what I'm about to share with you. Here it is. To climb this ladder economically as high as you wish to climb it, here's all you have to do. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Once I understood that philosophy, it totally changed my life. I made my first fortune by age 32, starting at age 25. And I've made and lost a few fortunes since then. That one simple philosophy, that it's possible to multiply your income by 10, and then by 10, and then by 10, by 10. And here's the simple way to do it. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Here's how it was put to me. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living, which is fantastic. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune, which is super fantastic. At age 25, I went to work on myself. The difference in my economic future was so startling, even in the early years, that I never went back to the old ways. I never went back to the old philosophy. I never went back to the old disciplines. I accepted the new ones, and it changed my life forever. Unbelievable. Here it is in philosophical terms. Just jot this phrase down. This is a good one. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become, by becoming an attractive person. Now, what could you think of that would start to make you more attractive to the marketplace? This is such simple ABC stuff. Okay? Let me give it to you. Let me start with this. Jim Rohn's view of the 21st century. We've begun a new century, 21. We've begun a new millennium, number 7. Some scholars hold great significance to this 7th millennium. And I think it's probably true. It's going to be the most extraordinary time in the history of the human race, I think. And these opening years now of the new millennium and the new century, how could you take advantage of this extraordinary time in human history and make for yourself an extraordinary life? Because it's all possible. So jot this little quote down now. It's one of the best I've come up with, I think, lately. And I'll just quote it slowly so you can jot it down and take it home. Here it is. From testimonials and from personal experience, we have enough information to conclude that it's possible to design and build and live an extraordinary life. From testimonials and from personal experience, we have enough information to conclude that it's possible to design and build and live an extraordinary life. I'd like to have you think about that, not just here, but even after you've gone back home. Think about it at least often enough to say, I think that's true. From testimonials and from personal experience, we have enough information to conclude that it's possible, it's not a guarantee, but it's possible to design and build and live an extraordinary life. Now, if you believe that and accept it, you just simply use that as a foundation, as the fundamentals. So now jot this down. Jim Rohn's view of the 21st century. Number one, unprecedented opportunity. Unprecedented opportunity. These are probably going to be the most extraordinary times in the history of the human race, 6,000 years of recorded history. We got through the last millennium. We especially got through the last century, a bloody century, the 20th century. Hopefully those major wars of devastation and destruction are behind us. World War II claimed 50 million lives. 19 million of them were Russian. The devastation of the 20th century was unparalleled and unprecedented. The savagery was unbelievable. The Holocaust was insanity of the most unbelievable kind. Hopefully that is in the century past. And that we have a new chance in a new century to build a new world and a new country and a new future. With all of the challenges. With Saddam Hussein, with the terrorists, and all the rest. Once the walls came down, about 12, 13 years ago, and I was just in Berlin the other day lecturing and had a chance to go to the Brandenburg Gate, Checkpoint Charlie, see part of the old Berlin Wall. Once those walls came down,